Hello and welcome to I Prefer Cooking, the podcast. I'm Amy Taylor, creator of I Prefer Cooking, the online website which provides healthy meals for under £1.50. In this series, I'm going to be interviewing lots of different people on many different issues affecting students, from food to politics to health. Now, if you're a first year student, or in fact just a young person who wants cooking help or something a bit different to listen to, you've downloaded the right podcast. So I'm going to get straight to the point. When I first moved to university, my first time was spent eating pasta and chicken and kind of drinking a bit too much alcohol. Not uncommon for a refresher though, but I did realise in January that after spending weeks at home over Christmas being fed real food and drinking water, not just because I was hungover, I found I really needed to sort my health out, specifically my eating habits. That was slightly difficult as I found I had very little cooking equipment in my cupboard and didn't really know the right foods to buy. So I did what any good student does. I turned to Google, who told me I needed to buy lots of healthy food, including avocados, which was a bit difficult as I had no idea what they even looked like. And I didn't really know kind of how much money to spend on it all, given that I'd spent the majority of my loan on nights out. But fear not. Over the last few years, since I Prefer Cooking began, I've explored this whole idea of being healthy and being able to afford it, so that students and young people aren't afraid to eat healthily and realise that it's not difficult. In fact, it's a lot easier and a lot cheaper than eating junk food. Something that my first guest of this series knows all about. James Baker is half of the cooking duo Food and Baker. He's a student while his girlfriend works in London, and I'm going to speak to him today about healthy eating, how to start your kitchen if you're a student wanting to be healthier, and that difficult situation of long distance relationships at university.
Hello?
Hello, is that James?
Yes, it is. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
James created the website Food and Baker with his girlfriend Jessica. They've been running the site and posting lots of lovely food pictures for the last few years. Originally created as like a food diary of their relationship, something many young people suffer with when they go to university. I'm going to talk to him today about this issue, but also about the whole healthy eating trend and how you can truly stay healthy on a budget. And more importantly, how to start up your healthy kitchen.
We never actually intended it to turn out to be a food blog. Jessica just set it up one day as kind of like a visual diary of every time that we ate together. So being in like a long distance relationship at the time, we always tried to like make the most of what we like every moment that we spent together really. And that was her way of kind of just putting it all together, because she noticed that we always took pictures of what we ate. And then soon enough, people started looking at this website. But yeah, we say roughly around 2 years. But when it actually became a thing, we're not too sure.
So you run it with your girlfriend Jessica.
That's correct.
How long have
yeah.
you guys been together?
We've been together for about 3 years and 3 months now.
So your blog is Food and Baker. Do you consider
Yes.
yourself more of a baker or a chef?
It's definitely not baking. Baker is my last name, James Baker. So that's where that partner name comes from. And Jessica, just before the blog came about, she just had as her Instagram bio Food and Baker as the two things that she loves, and that's where the name came from. So we do mostly cook, but there is a bit of baking in there. But we're not saying that we're experts by any means.
So when you went to university and you obviously started cooking all by yourself as such, what were kind of the key things that you were like, right, I definitely need this to have in my kitchen?
It's a tricky one. I mean, as a student, like always trying to be like on a budget, whatever it might be at that time, I'd always try and plan some meals for maybe the week ahead and try and use dishes that have similar ingredients. Not to the point where you feel like you're eating the same thing every day, but just so if you needed like a free of something and you know it would make it cheaper per unit to buy the free instead of the one, then I'd always try and use the same ingredients across a few meals. But in terms of actual things to have in the kitchen, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, because I know for me when I went to uni, I ended up going with like 3 or 4 pots and maybe like 2 plates, and now my kitchen
Okay.
is filled to the brim of just stuff that I didn't even
Yeah,
realise I'd need.
yeah, it's true. I mean, of course, got I think about 4 of everything just for when Jessica comes round and if we ever have any guests. But yeah, slowly accumulated a lot of coffee cups and got a slow cooker now from my grandma and a coffee machine and everything like that. So yeah, it's slowly built, and I'm not quite sure where to put everything anymore. But yeah, nothing too much has changed over time, I don't think.
So, for someone listening to this who is, say, a first year student, just come back after Christmas, has absolutely no money because they spent it all in their first year, not talking about myself at all, what would you kind of say to them if they were like, right, I need to start eating better? They have no idea where to start. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think always like the websites that we've used for kind of like healthier meals, maybe BBC Good Food. Always looking on Pinterest, and even stuff like Instagram. I feel like there's like a massive trend, and kind of like why our blog has been pretty successful. So people are looking to social media and blogs and for inspiration for that kind of thing. And if you follow people who are at a similar age to you or are also students, then they're probably going to be on a similar budget and they're going to be interested in the same kind of stuff. So yeah, we're always looking at other blogs for inspiration, browsing through hashtags on Instagram, and then of course like your regular like cooking websites, BBC Good Food, and those kind of things.
With regards to recipes, obviously you need to kind of have the core items in like your pantry as such. What kind of
Yeah.
core things could you not live without food wise?
Well, I don't really have a particular favorite type of food. It's a question that we get asked all the time, but I just can't whittle it down to that kind of thing. We always try to eat as expansively as possible, and I feel like myself, especially not so much Jessica, she's always been quite explorative with her food choices, but I've widened my range in terms of what I like and what I know now. And we always try and reflect that in our cooking at home. Of course, like the staples, your pasta. If you're looking for kind of like healthy things, I always try and include some kind of meat. Mostly like white meat, like chicken. Of course, if you're not vegetarian or anything like that, then I tend to have quite a lot of dishes with that in. I love cooking with eggs and cooking with spinach as much as possible if I can throw that in. Yeah, off the top of my head, there's nothing that particularly stands out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I probably couldn't live without pasta and like passata or something like that. I use it in pretty much every meal. It's stuff like that, I think, that kind of a lot of students, I guess, don't know where to begin. And obviously there's the financial aspect as well. There's this assumption that eating healthily and cooking for yourself rather than having ready meals all the time is more expensive.
Yeah, not at all. I'm thinking about it actually. I always try and cook. Well, I don't always try, but I end up eating quite a lot of risotto. I just find it like it's really cheap to make, and you can make like quite a lot of portions at the same time, and then in the fridge or fridges for a later date. So your arborio rice is pretty cheap, and then most of them end up having onion in them, which is of course cheap. And then if you just throw like a few different vegetables in, maybe some tomato, like tin tomatoes, or just vegetable or certain meat stock, and maybe a couple of other ingredients, looking at like a few pounds at the most. And if that makes you 3 or 4 portions, then you're almost set for every lunch for the week or every dinner. So yeah, risotto is one of mine, and yeah, pasta as well, definitely.
So do you meal prep a lot of your food?
So meal prep as such, I always try and like cook it fresh every time, although I'll have the ingredient left over in the fridge from the last time I made it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should try prepping more. I know a lot of people do it, but for some reason I've just never.
So with regards to obviously you're a final year student, I know myself how difficult it is to just find time in the day to actually cook a decent meal. What's kind of your go-to really quick meal?
Yeah, probably some kind of pasta. We did a budget series on the blog about the middle of last year, and one of them, which I always seem to end up going back to, it's a pasta, any kind that you want, with Philadelphia cream cheese, just like garlic and chili flakes, with fresh tomatoes and a splash of balsamic vinegar. Throw it all together. It sounds really simple, but it's actually really good. And the kick from the chili and the balsamic vinegar is amazing. And this sounds really lazy, but I bought I'm not sure what it's called. I think it is actually called really lazy garlic and really lazy chili or something. And those little pots of those just chopped garlic bits has lasted me for absolutely ages. So it probably cost me about £1 each for a pot, and balsamic another £1. So it's probably £5 meal at the most, but half the ingredients will last you weeks really. But yeah, that is the one that I end up going to quite a lot, and it's dead quick to make as well. Probably 10-15 minutes at the most. There's not much prep involved. Yeah, that is one I would say.
Yeah, I think pasta for me is always a go-to, especially when I want something really filling as well, because you can make so much of it.
Yeah, definitely. Always by accident though. You never realise how much you're making, and then suddenly you've got 4 meals in front of you when you only meant to have one. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although it does come in handy whenever I'm kind of doing a late night in the library or something. I always find myself getting so hungry and realise I've got nothing on me, no packaged meals or anything.
Yeah, the thing with pasta as well, you can always have it cold and take it out with you. So
exactly. Finally, what staples do you think every student should have in their cupboards?
Definitely garlic, chili, and onions. Probably some kind of stock, whether it be vegetable, chicken, beef, depending on what you're making. Probably just always have some bread in as well. There's always things that you wouldn't normally put in a sandwich or something, but it's dead convenient to have if you're in a rush and you need to go out, and then you realise you've got some leftover ingredients which you can throw together and make a sandwich, whether it be some kind of meat or something like that. But other than that, trying to envisage my cupboard at the moment. Yeah, I'd say that's about it. And of course, just have some olive oil, sunflower oil, something like that in, so you've always got something to whip up in the frying pan pretty quick.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. As long as it's something that can be interchanged quite easily, it's a key ingredient.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for talking to me. It's been really interesting to kind of chat with someone who knows a lot about food and also has the budget angle themselves. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Talking with James about food and first year life and just kind of everyday health just reminds me of how important it is, and it just signifies kind of why I started over cooking. Healthy food isn't expensive, and this assumption that you can't eat healthily as a student because you can't afford it just so isn't true. And that's really the point of these podcasts. I want to just reinforce this fact that you can be healthy on a budget. Meals aren't expensive, and the excuse of, I can't afford to buy healthy food, it's not an excuse. I want to also thank James for taking the time out to speak to me. Him and Jessica can be found at foodandbaker.co.uk. They also have a beautiful Instagram that I would strongly recommend you follow, as well as their Twitter, which they've really turned into a food community. As for me, I'm on iprefercooking.co.uk. And I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I'd love if you'd leave me a little bit of feedback in the comment section and subscribe to get the next podcast downloaded straight away when it goes live. Thanks for listening.